Thank you, Consensus, for this awesome event. I'm Niv. I'm the CTO of a company called Hexagate. We do real-time monitoring, like end-to-end monitoring for anything bad happening on chain. That could be like exploits, phishing, fraud, scams, and a bunch of other stuff called Invariants, which I'm going to delve a bit deeper. Just as a general, just an FYI, we're going to deal with the aspect of like monitoring like infrastructure, protocols, platforms, and not like the consumer side. So it's like the other side of what is like the other side that like the actual contracts that users are interacting with. Cool. So there's a lot of text in here, and this is because protecting contracts is a hard task. Basically, we are like when we at Hexagate like think on how to protect contracts. Basically, we envision that North Korea like is working really hard if they see like a contract with lots of TVL, and they're going to do whatever is needed like to actually hack the funds. Basically, we have like so much attack vectors when it comes to contracts. That could be like things like financial risks, right? Like this is the economic incentives of the protocol can be attacked. The composability, like if I'm aggregating, like DeFi and like Web3 is all about composability. So if I'm attacking something which I'm relying on, if something is attacked that I'm relying on, that also affects me. Administration, governance, like every protocol eventually evolves to some decentralized manner. And that also entails like a lot of risks in how they manage like any governance-related activities. And last but not least, like is any cybersecurity risks. Obviously, like when you are building a contract and someone is now finding bugs and he's really incentivized like to find these bugs, eventually there is like just one line in the code could eventually cause like lots of fund loss for users. And this is not something we're expecting people to solve because writing software is hard and vulnerabilities will just keep existing. So basically on all those different bullets that we have in here, like there are lots of, like it probably accumulates to a few billions of dollars being stolen in the different attack vectors just by, I don't know, the last year or something. So that's like why the mission is hard. So where do we begin? So basically when we think of a protocol or like any other critical infrastructure in place, we start with threat modeling. Like what do we even want to protect? So threat mapping involves understanding what I wanted to protect and what like might put me at risk, which I might not know about. Like this is what we call like the unknown threats. So the unknown threats, like there are great companies as well as similar to what we're doing that try to solve it with like as Andy from Fora mentioned, with like machine learning models and some security heuristics to actually like uncover some abnormal activity happening. So the reason this is easier in blockchain is because everything is accessible, so that makes a perfect case for machine learning and those kind of things. But from our perspective, again, like if North Korea sees $1 billion stored in a contract in front of them, or any other nation state, or even just like some individual black hat, it won't like, just a single defense wouldn't like necessarily block him. So what are the known threats? Like besides like the unknown threats, like what else can we possibly cover? Cool. So basically any protocol behaves based on specific rules, and this is what we many times call invariants. So invariance is something that always should exist in the protocol, or at least like the way we generalize it, what the protocol expects to happen. So for example, just a token, right, an ERC20, is just expecting like the total supply, which is like the variable that tells what is the total supply of the token, must always equal to the sum of balances of the users. If, for example, some malicious actor managed like to, I don't know, make his balance much larger without like affecting the total supply, it means like the invariant breaks, and this means like the protocol is now broken and some other things might break as well, and then it would potentially make him steal some funds. Basically, invariant, like we as mentioned, like we cannot generalize it to the things that you just expect from the protocol. For example, on a bridge, you're always expecting that if you have like layer 2 or a bridge, whatever, then you're always expecting that some minted tokens are always due to some, like on the layer 2 is also due to like deposits on layer 1 and so on. So that would be like the some sort of invariant which is always true for bridges, which does not take into account like how the dev actually implemented the software. So this is like how we, like what to expect from, how to define like a working protocol, or what the dev expected something to be working in the protocol. Cool, so if we could just map all the invariants, like just say how protocols behave, we could just always monitor that or just enforce that so that everything is always enforced. No protocol will ever be broken because we always enforced. So what's the challenge? So basically, there are also great companies doing fuzzing, formal verification, and mapping of some invariants. But the key thing in here is that this is challenging. Like mapping all the invariants in a protocol is challenging. Like knowing exactly how the protocol should behave, how it should react to like a huge, Oracle update change, or when something that it did not expect happen, is obviously like a hard task. And harder to that is actually testing that all the time with some, like right when the dev is now working. Now, if going back like to the first principles, basically like security requires like a layer strategy. Like we cannot just have fuzzing and then say, okay, or auditing and just like claim that the protocol is secure, which is kind of like, as Andy mentioned, like it kind of felt like some time ago, like it was the mindset of many protocols that auditing just should suffice because we just went over all the bugs and we know that there are no bugs found, so probably the protocol is secure. And from our point of view, monitoring for invariants like is a key component like in the arsenal of like monitoring solution, and we kind of don't see like the future of like all these protocols, bridges, critical infrastructure just being like single transaction away from being wiped, surviving without like this critical infrastructure to protect them. So this is a few examples just how invariant monitoring could have saved potential few billions. I'll just quickly go over like some examples. So Polygon, which is obviously like a big company, lots of devs, lots of security engineers. They put a lot of money into like making sure Polygon is always secure. Recently, like another company called Asymmetric Research found a bug in Polygon that is a really sophisticated bug with their node provider and also the smart contracts that eventually could have enabled them to steal all the funds in the Polygon bridge. Now, many times, like if we take all like the companies, like as what we do at Hexagate and other companies as well, like there are all the unknown threats that we try to uncover with a machine learning model, but not always it works. So this specific example is a great example of why invariant monitoring would have been able to save, or at least detect, and then prevention is another topic, such an attack. In here specifically, we just talked about bridges. So if we try like to talk about the first, like the most trivial bridge invariant, so that is if someone is withdrawing now funds from the bridge, then it means that someone now actually burned those funds on layer 2. And the specific exploit in this example could have been like looking like legitimate, and only like an invariant monitoring could have detected that. Now, if we're going and looking at other examples as well, so Euler, like everyone knows that because there was a crazy story afterwards with returning the funds and all of that. So Euler was hacked because some broken invariant. Obviously, like many companies, again, could have detected it with unknown threats, but specifically, Euler managed like to map the specific invariant on Euler when before like they were hacked. So they knew that the protocol should always enforce something in the protocol. And yet, the attacker found this vulnerability and exploited that. And this is unfortunate again because Euler could have at least prevented that by enforcing that invariant even on-chain because this was relatively easily enforceable. So this is again like shows the mindset of like mapping those invariants, like enforcing them or at least detecting them, and then thinking of how to prevent. And last but not least, and the list is obviously very long. Again, like a malfunctioning Binance Oracle and Venus exploit also caused like a few for some fund loss. They were just expecting the Oracle to work, and again, like a monitor on that would have like detected that real easily. Cool, so we've talked about the mindset. So basically this is a very short schema of like maybe the evolution of like security stack of protocols or any critical infrastructure such as chains or bridges. Basically you start with fuzzing, formal verification, but you do, or auditing, but you do understand that this is not enough. And then on testnet you start monitor for invariants. And then also on mainnet, obviously, like you monitor for invariants. But as mentioned before, Andy talked about that from Fora, detection is just like one piece. Eventually, like detection is never enough if you don't have like, the instant response processes in place, like the procedures to actually take action whenever something's break. And I think in many times, like even if you have like a very good detection, if you don't have like the means to actually remediate the issue or do something, it's literally like does not worth a lot. So on the invariant space, like we have developed like some mindset and some tooling to actually respond to those invariants being broken, which is another topic to be discussed. But I just like wanted to point it out because like the trivial response to like detection is like, what do you do with the response? So so kind of circles back like to the talk that Andy gave. So that will be it.
Any questions? I know you talked about kind of, like what happens with invariant monitoring, like it's like a whole other kind of case, but I'm curious, like, have you, like, what are some examples you're seeing of like what, gets triggered by these invariant monitors? Is it like alerts, but have you, like, to me, like what would make sense is in some cases maybe even pausing the protocol or something similar, but like, I don't know, what have you seen and what would you like recommend to do when an invariant is triggered?
Yeah, so great question, and it really depends. Like I'll give a couple of examples. So maybe two examples from like real life incidents that we had with actual customers. If like eventually the response, like if you start from the end, so the response is always depends on the operational constraints of the protocol. So if you're completely immutable and have no guardrails at all and have no, you cannot really do anything. So the best strategy would probably be to communicate that out for users, and it really depends on the type of hack. But if I'm taking like an approach where also Andy mentioned is if the protocol manages his own risk and he has some emergency break situations, he could take some measures in place. For example, we work with EigenLayer, and they use our platform to do like bunch of invariant monitoring on the platform, and they have a delayed withdrawal router, which means basically that even if a critical vulnerability is detected and someone manages like to steal whatever, like the $9 billion currently in Eigen, then it would eventually land would be transferred to the router, and that router is like managed by the Eigen Labs or the Eigen Foundation, whatever, and they could take action even not in real time because there is a delayed withdrawal whenever you withdraw from Eigen. So that means like if we're able to detect some invariant broke alongside our machine learning, then we have like a couple of fences to detect those malicious activity, and also because they have the strategy of the delayed withdrawal router, then they're able to actually take action. Now, another example is that happened to one of our users, is that sometimes things just break, and you map invariants, and you think the protocol behaves such as you expect, and things just break just like that, right? Like not necessarily some malicious activity. So having that measures in place means that you sometimes detect those bugs even from mainnet, because not always all the test cases can produce anything. And then you can take action, which could be like, automatically pausing, or for example, have some enforcement on chain for these types of invariants, and so on and so forth. So long story short, it really depends on the operational constraints and what you can do, and the architecture of, do I even have something to do in real time? If I'm completely immutable and have not thought about security and the fact that devs can do wrong and auditing is not enough, then obviously you don't have a lot to do. But if you have some measures to pause, to have this delayed withdrawal, to have some other mitigations within the contract, then you could use them when you detect something.